this is Second Road. I changed my name from Waterflush to Second Road, so that's why my name might be different in your sub box. Well, recently I made a kind of electronic orchestral track. I named it Dystopian Desert. I didn't finish it yet, but I thought I might go through the track in a walkthrough and just go about the sounds I used and how I made this stuff. It's not really like pro stuff, but maybe it helps, I don't know. You will be the judge of that. I'm not quite sure yet about giving out the project data. Maybe I might finish it, but I might also give it out. Like, I don't know, if you really want the Fruity Loops project, maybe you can tell me in the comments. First of all, since nobody from you knows this track, I will play it for you. So alright, as you may have guessed it, I used like a rendered version of it because it lags too much to play it like the whole thing while recording. I'm sorry for that. I'll delete this now. I need to put on all the other instruments again. Okay. Well, that's the track. It was my first time doing like a real orchestral track, kind of with some like electronic elements. I think it turned out quite nice. As I said, I didn't finish it yet, but yeah. So that's the track so far, and let's go through all the individual instruments, starting from the top. Well, obviously we have this strings section. It sounds like this. You get the idea. I didn't do like any fancy modulation of the strings. I just changed the velocity of the individual string notes. And actually that's about it. I just use the contact library. It's the session strings library. And I did use a second library for these notes because they are really short notes. And I wanted the attack of strings to be faster for those notes, so they are noticeable in the mix. So they don't just drown because of a high attack. That's just why I used the second instance of contact with just a different velocity switch in this case, I think, yeah. Well, the effects are quite simple for this one. I basically just messed with the frequencies with a lot of different EQs. So we have this EQ here just to lower some of the high mids in this part. One to lower the kind of air and like mid bass section of the strings. We have this Pro Q to take out some of the side signal of this part. I explain you later why I did this. We have this low cut just to take out some of the mid bass frequencies and the sub bass frequencies. And I don't know what this is. I think I just forgot to delete this one, so don't worry about it. Alright, next up is this support pad. It's a serum. It sounds like this. Yeah, you get the idea. Basically, it's just a saw pad, kind of. As you can see, we have like not like saws, but you get the idea. It has lots of voices. That's why it's already starts to lag my PC. Well, it just plays the same notes. I think like an octave higher. And the effects are actually really simple. I just use an EQ, take out the lows because we don't need them here. And I took out some of the highs and some of the mid highs kind of here to make room for other elements. Next up is the are the atmospheric layers. Those are like the pad layers, that's it. Those two, strings and the pad. And this is the atmosphere. Okay, I have the atmosphere fading in with a balance automation, so don't worry about that. Okay, this is, I think, a high pad. Yeah, you get the idea of it. It's in the track to support the high notes and like get the air into the highs and just fill this frequency spectrum. It's, I think it's it's a noir. It's a noir piano, and I just turned on 100% of a particular engine. It's the bright pad preset, and this makes for some fantastic atmosphere in the higher notes. I did some. I messed a little with the frequencies again. I took out the mids in this case, like a lot, like really drastically, because I wanted all of this frequency range to be in the sides within the mix, to like have some really airy and bright high frequencies. Then I have this EQ to take out the sub frequencies. And I have this EQ, really important, at around 200 Hz, just going down to remove the air in the sound. Take a listen. This is the sound with the EQ, and if I turn off the EQ, it sounds like this. I hope you can hear this on YouTube, maybe if you put on headphones. There's a lot of air, especially like in the sub area, in the 200 Hz area. And if we move it, we get a really like smooth and clean sound. There's still a little bit of air left, but I leave it there because it just doesn't harm the mix. Like, you can't really hear it anymore. And it also, the sound should stay kinda organic. That's why I like it. Alright, next up is this atmosphere. It sounds like this. It's a little more rhythmic and way more active in the mix, as you can hear it. It's also a really simple sound. Let me turn off the processing. It sounds like this. My bad. Wait. Oh, I'm in the wrong. Okay, now. Yeah, it's just a plain piano. It's a noir again. And it's just playing in this really simple rhythm. Even the same velocity, well, the magic comes from the processing. Let me turn this all off. First up, we have this Valhalla Shimmer with 100% wet and in big stereo reverb mode to get a really bright sound. And I have a low cut in here at around 300 Hz, so we really only get like mids and highs in this reverb spectrum. otherwise it might get really muddy. Especially in general, you want to really look out for like low cut, high cut knobs within your reverb, because if you put like some reverb on whatever sound, if it has some lower frequencies or whatever and they get reverbed, that makes the mix really, really messy in no time. So you really need to look out for that. Alright, and next up is an OTT with 100% depth, and this really shapes the sound. Without the OTT it sounds like this. It's already really it's already really atmospheric, but it's not upfront the way I want it. That's why I put a lot of OTT on it, and it sounds like this now. And once again, you can hear a lot of air swinging in the sound. And if you let all that air add up in your mix, it makes it really muddy. So you want to remove that again. I have like 2 EQs, just doing some low end removal and like weakening the mid to high mid frequency spectrum, because otherwise it's just a little too harsh. And now we have a really, I think, unique sounding sound. It's really atmospheric. It's still up front. It has a nice transient to it as well, even though it's 100% reverbed. And yeah, that's the Atmos sound for it. Before I forgot to mention it, the master, I need to turn it on. Really quick, what's really important is, I hope, oh wait. Oh, give me a second. Oh, okay, here we go. This is like, I put, most often I put a Pro Q on the master and remove like the lows to low mids in the sides of the whole track. Usually you don't really want like side signal, like stereo signal in your sub frequencies, and maybe not quite particular in your mid basses, but that differs. Well, and that's why I usually put this on. You can really do like A/B stuff. If your mix is really muddy, it sounds like, wow, that's like, I don't know, that's like so muddy. It just doesn't sound clean. It's so there's so much going on in the lows. Maybe try putting on some like side reduction in the EQ, like a Pro Q, or whatever you can do to remove like stereo from your sub, and do like A/Bs. You really often, at least in my case, it's like some stereo in the sub or sub mid frequencies, and it's ruining basically the whole mix. So that's really like a useful tip in my opinion. It took me a long time to figure it out. I have like a stereoscope just for analyzing. I have this EQ for analyzing as well. And I have, it's not mastered yet, I have like a compressor on it. It's put quite high, but it's not compressing that much actually, because the track is pretty quiet. I put it on to get some more gain, to add some makeup, and I put it on to glue the instruments a little bit together. Not much, but at least a little bit, so the dynamic range is like more in context to the other instruments. That's really important if you like if you have like multiple sounds and they sound like they don't belong together. I had that happened to me a lot of times back then, and I didn't know what to do. Well, really often it's the dynamic range, the quietest and the loudest point in the sounds. And if you think about it, it makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, if you have different sounds in your track, they will be recorded differently, or they are just made differently. And that also adds to different dynamic ranges. And with a compressor, you can like manipulate this dynamic range. And in this case, if I put it on the master, I like I cut down some of the dynamic range of like some instruments that are really dynamic, and if I do that, I get a more similar dynamic range to the other instruments, and this just makes everything sound more like they belong together. I hope you can understand what I mean. Well, yeah, okay, that's my master. And that's the Admiral, as I taught you. Now the basses, they are like really freaking normal. This is I think mid bass. Yeah. That's the mid bass. It's just a respace I made in Serum, just some voices and a filter. And yeah, you get an instant respace. I have quite some attack in here, just to match the sound to the string, because the strings need quite some time to envelope. Wait, let me show you. Like they aren't very instantly. They need like a few milliseconds before they really are powerful. And I do the same with basses. So they don't just like fuck you up, you know. That's why I put some attack on it. And in this case, in this bass, I did some. First of all, I removed some frequencies, like the sub-frequencies. Usually you don't want to cut it that harsh. I made a really steep cut because that can fuck up your phases. You need to be careful about that. But FL got an update some time ago and introduced a phase linear EQ mode, and I put that on basically, so it doesn't fuck the phases. So that's fine in this case. I did it just to get like to get a really clean cut to let the sub bass fill in the rest of the space. In this case, I think it's totally fine. Usually you also don't want to do this because it sounds unnatural, because there's nothing in nature that like cuts a sound this steep. But in this case, it's nothing natural. It's a synthesizer, so it's fine doing this, in my opinion at least. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And I have a Pro Q, and here comes quite something I usually don't do, but I put on a lot of sides in this mid bass. Usually you want your basses more like in mono, but in this case I put a lot of stereo in it, a lot of sides, because what I figured some time ago, like if you listen to like, I don't know, some orchestral stuff or some pad breaks, something, I don't know, something spheric and atmospheric, and I had like a point where I was, wow, that sounds so huge. Why does that sound so huge? I didn't get it. I stacked pads and I never quite understood why it sounds excuse me, why it sounds so huge. And at one point I just figured, at least that's my approach, the mid bass makes it sound really, really huge. I don't quite know, I'm not that much into like frequency theory, but a wide and like nice and loud mid bass, like a respace like this, makes your sound really wide and huge and big. Like I expected like some hugeness coming from the mids or the highs, never the lows, but it's actually quite the lows a lot of time. That's why I put it in sides, just to get like a really huge sound in this one. That's why this is in the bass. Also, that is why I put the strings at this point into more mono kind of stereo field, to give more place, to give more space to the mid bass. And well, we have this sub bass here. It's like a really normal sub bass, comes from Silent. You can use any synth whatsoever, I mean it's just a normal sub bass. And I have just one EQ on it, but I think that was to monitor the frequencies. I didn't use it for anything. And also in this case I also put on more attack, you can hear it. It takes a little time to envelope. yeah, just to match the other instruments. And well, that's already about all the like main instruments playing. The rest is all Earcandy except for this. We can listen to it now. Well, sadly it's lagging, I'm sorry for that, but you can hear it already has like a nice sound. It has it fits with the frequency spectrum nice. You really want to do that in your tracks to get a really homogeneous sounding track. You want just to fill up the whole spectrum from like 20 hertz to around 20k hertz. Yeah, I'm sorry for the lag. I don't know, my PC can't really stand just these instruments as it seems. Yeah, but that's just the foundation. We have also this piano here. Yeah, it's just playing in the background. You can't really hear it. It's just to fill out some more frequencies and get like get a little bit more transient into it. It's okay. This is how it sounds without effects. Really basic piano. I think yeah, it's another noir. Nothing on it. It's just a basic noir. And I affected it a lot to get a more unique sound of it. Let me just put it all off. Okay, we have this EQ. Taking out highs and some of the mids. We have this guitar rig. I think it's not loading. Please load. Okay. Is it loading? Yeah, it's loading. Alright, I just used a random preset, like not random, but I used this preset, Piano Hall. Gives it this kind of weird pre-delay. We have this Pro Q, taking out like really radically the mids. So the sound is really in the side of our ears. It's again to like let the space to the main instruments, leave the space to the main instruments, and just get it as sort of like filling the frequencies. We have another paramedic EQ to take out some of the lows again. That's not necessary, I just was lazy. And I think this is to take out some of the piano mud. What I figured, often with pianos, you really have a muddy sound around 300 to like 400, 500 hertz, something like that. At least in my opinion, that sounds way cleaner. You'll be your judge for that. That's why I usually, like, if I have a piano inside of a mix, I remove like the frequencies in this area. It depends on the piano, obviously, and if it makes sense in the mix. But it usually makes sense for me. But that's like not a rule to apply always. Just listen to what sounds best. And I have this kickstart because I was too lazy to sidechain it in a different way. Basically, it just plays once per bar, and I put it on to, as you can hear, the transient really gets cut off. And I did this so it doesn't interfere with like the other instruments, so it's really just in the background. Otherwise the transient would be too loud and you would notice it really strongly in the mix. And I didn't want this because I didn't want the piano in this part of the track. It just didn't make sense for me in the soundscape overall. Alright, yeah, that's about the piano. Now we can start with like all the sound with like the Earcandy stuff. Well, let's start with this ambience. It's really nothing special. It's just a random ambience I used from a pack. It just sounds like this. Yeah, and there I let it fade out instantly when the track starts. I only use it for this part of a fade in. You can hear it really subtle, it's in the lower area, like sub, a lot of air, you can hear it, and then I just let it fade out because I don't want it to make the mix muddy. I have this flute pad, just really subtle, just adding for the transient at the start of the track. Nothing special about it, I just took out some lows and some of the high mids. And I took out some of the resonances that bothered me with the Pro Q. I used the dynamic EQ mode. It makes it like it's a function. It's really useful because that's not working. You can like set it up here like this, and then you can make it dynamic. I can disable the dynamics and I can enable the dynamics. And what it does is basically, as soon as there's like a frequency in this area here and it goes below the threshold of the point that I put here, it will duck the frequency there. I'm really using it a lot for some nest resonances to take them out at the right moment. Let's say there's a piano and like it plays 8 bars, and there's like only one fraction of a bar where it has a nasty frequency and you want to take it out, then you can just put up a dynamic EQ and will only, if you set the threshold right, it will only take out the nasty resonance at the point where the resonance is too loud. So I really like this. And yeah, in this case there was like, you can see it here. There was a nasty frequency I didn't like, and I put it down with a Pro Q. All right. Okay, next up. I'm really sorry, my Streamlabs crashed while recording. I'm sorry. Where we left off is this sound. I made it myself. That's how it sounds like. A really glitchy and messy kind of artificial sound. It's really distorted, and I made it myself. I just consolidated it and recorded it and reversed it, so I can have this like going like fading in sound. It has now I think it doesn't have any really important processing. It just has this EQ, like nothing really special. Just taking out some of the low mids and I think air in this case, and some of the highs because it was a little too harsh. And I limited it a little bit so it doesn't go too loud within enveloping. And well, this sound is, if I remember correct, it's actually this sound here. Yeah, it's a really nasty and highly distorted sound. Well, I'll show you how I made it. This is like the Wolf's Chain. I'll disable it. Give me a second. Alright, okay. So this is the bass sound. Yeah, like a really basic, I think it's a trumpet, something like that. I used the session horns for it. And that's just a really basic sound. We have the Valhalla Shimmer in it again, with medium stereo, because I didn't want it to go too far into the stereo field. And like the mix is put to around a third of the wall. Yeah, just to create some space and ambience into it. Really basic sound. Then we have Chorale. It's a chorus plugin, just to add some more voices and some more riff. Yeah. Then I have a glue. It's really like it's compressing a lot of the signal, and it has quite some makeup. I did this to kind of bake the reverb tail into the sound. It sounds like this. It makes the sound thicker as well as the reverb tail, and makes it more like kind of a brick, you know. It just makes it way more, well, I don't know how to put it. It just makes it more glued together. Then we have dirt. It's just to boost the signal a bit. Yeah. Next up, another EQ to take out some of the highs and some of the lows. Then the important part, that's the destructor. That's like adding all of the really like nasty distortion to the sound. I'm sorry if that was too loud or if that, like, I don't know, was too harsh. Well, I did think the same, though it was really harsh. That's why I put on this paramedic cue. And really important, this really weird looking filter plugin. A friend showed me this one, and it has quite a unique sound to it. I really don't want to go into detail about this one. It's called Flower Child Filter 2, and it's free actually, so you can just get it yourself if you want. It sounds like this now. Yeah, by now it's just a really thick, distorted and nasty sound. Next up is another glue, just to glue all the effects together again. Just make it more like it belongs together. Yeah. And I have a fruity balance. It's just to get rid of the reverb within the mix. It sounds like this. Yeah, it just fades out. Also, I did like some LFO with the balance, and this is like the LFO. You can make it quite easily. I think if you just if you double click into a automation, you have this window, and then you can click on LFO, and it just makes it an LFO. That's how you can do it. And well, I have this LFO here, and I modulated the LFO with another automation. It just looks like this. You know, the LFO just goes way faster over time, and it does sound like this. Oh. Well, you can hear it a little bit. It just adds to the uniqueness of the sound, and it just makes it a little more special, in my opinion. Okay, so basically I have this sound, and I just consolidated the track with some different notes, and then I reversed it, and that's the whole story for this sound. Like, it's nothing really that special, but I think it quite adds a charm to it. Well, in the same section I have, let me just scale this down again. We have this sound. Sounds really strange on its own, but basically it's just like, excuse me, it's just this ambient shot. It sounds like this. I pitched it up a lot, like 1000 cents, like 10 semitones. Other than that, usually it sounds like this. but I wanted it to be high up, and it also creates some weird artifacts if you pitch it up like this. And what I did then is I channel pitched it, I think 2 semitones. I have this pitch range. In FL you can just change the pitch within this window, and you can like change it to like 24 semitones, like 2 octaves of pitch, and then you can just like control this. And I did this with an automation for 2 semitones, and it makes the sound go like down. Yeah, obviously. What I did was it's out of key, and with the pitch automation, it slowly goes into key. That makes it really dissonant to the overall instruments, and gives it like a really I don't know how to put it, like maybe kind of an off feeling, but it doesn't feel out of key. Like it makes it kind of mysterious. I'd put it like that. And this is just a channel volume. I just didn't want it to like swing out for that long. That's why I just put it out with a automation. And in context with like the other instruments, it sounds like this. You can hear it at the beginning, it's quite off, but it still does fit, and I think it really adds to the overall feel of the track, which I wanted to feel like a desert, but in the future, basically. That's why I call it a dystopian desert. And I think it adds quite well, and I think this is something that makes it quite unique and really gives it a nice Earcandy. Okay, that's about this part. Well, next up is this bass one shot. It sounds like this. It's just a sample I used. Let me turn off all the effects. And it's pitched up by 6 semitones. It sounds like this. It sounds quite strange like this. And I used not a lot of effects, but quite some effects on it. Let's start. First up, just in a normal EQ to get rid of some of the lows and just tweak it a bit. Then the most important plugin actually, which basically does the whole sound, is this Patcher preset by Xenofish. I just used it. You can just go to this preset tab up here, and it's under the X Xenofish like folder. You can just find it there. It's the Roa preset. It looks like this, and what it does is it basically adds a ton of distortion. I don't really know exactly what it does. It's a complex plugin made by Xenofish, a really wonderful plugin, and I just turned off some of the gain because it was too loud. And now with it, it sounds like this. Adds quite some crunchy distortion. Without it, quite lame, and with it, wow, like really crunchy, powerful, and cool sound now. Okay, next up is another EQ to like get rid of some of the frequencies that the Patcher preset added, making it a little bit more fitting for the mix. I added a little bit, not even a little bit, quite some actually. It's quite some reverb. It's not, oh, I didn't turn it on. Oh, I'm stupid, sorry. Yeah, just add some tail to it and makes it, lets it sit better in the mix. And last is a Freak plugin. That's like, I think it's an LFO plugin. I figured at least because that's what I used it for. With this automation, now it sounds like this. Yeah, it really adds just some more uniqueness to the sound. That's about it. Nothing special about it. Then when we go into the second part of the chords, we get this deep kick reverb. It sounds like this. It's just a normal sampler. I think I didn't really tweak it. No, I did not. And with it comes this this low frequency sidechain. I made it with a frequency splitter. It's right here, and it's, as you can see, it just ducks the low frequencies for a moment there to give room for the deep reverb kick. And yeah, that's about it for this part. Other than that, we have another lead coming in here. It's this one. It's layering with a trumpet lead, and it just adds some more Earcandy and just makes some of the parts sound more huge and just bigger in general. Well, the sound is orchestral, I think, again, yeah. It's another session strings with just another main setup, slide fast up. As you can hear, it just, yeah, it does what it reads, it slides up. Gives it kind of more alien kind of sound, in my opinion. Like, it just makes it sound more more mysterious and just adds some more dissonance to the sound. And I processed it, obviously. I did use an OTT, 100% wetness again. Without it, it sounds like this. Yeah, it just makes it more crunchy again. I usually only use OTT with like a depth of 100% or maybe something different, a little lower than that, but usually around this mark to sound design, for sound design purpose. And it really works wonders for that. Yeah, I turned down the lows because I didn't need them. I didn't need them in the sound particularly. That's why I took them out. I have flare. Yeah, that's like the that's I don't even fucking know what this is anymore. I used the preset of this, to be fair. Like I just browsed it and got it on accident. Ambient grain. I think it's a granulizer, but I'm honestly not quite sure. With it, it sounds like this. I don't know, doesn't quite sound like a granulizer. I'm just incompetent, I'm sorry. But it does sound nice. It gives it a really like ambient note, but it doesn't take the sound out of like the context. It still lets it in the middle of the mix, and that just makes it sound really, really huge. And we have another EQ, taking out some of the lows, boosting some of the high mids actually, because they weren't quite strong enough before to cut through the mix, and this just fixed that. Yeah, okay, that's actually about it, except for this sound here. It's just a sample I grabbed from Splice, if I remember correct. I pitched it up to get it into the right key, and I didn't process a lot. Yeah, I only used some EQ to take out some of the lows and some of the high mids, and yeah, that's about it. Alright, next up is the second section. There isn't much more going on. I just have drums. I put some drums now, and like this, I think it's a sitar kind of sound. Let's actually start with this one. It sounds like this. Yeah, it's an Indian instrument. Actually, let me check it. It's nope, that's not the right one. It is it's a tempura. Yeah, it's this tempura's instrument. I put it to chromatic. I think that's actually the standard if you load it in. and I had quite some trouble mixing it in. I still think it's not really sitting that good in the mix, but I never like processed an instrument like this ever before, so maybe next time I will do better. I just took out some of the lows, and then I did some like removing the harshness, taking out the mids and the highs. Well, yeah, I put it in this track because, well, it does sound like, it does sound Eastern, you know, it does sound like the East. It reminds me kind of like deserts and stuff, you know, like India, and that's why I put it in, just to get this vibe. And I just used some random notes, like that was a lot of trend error getting there, and also a lot of luck, but it does kind of sound like legit, I think. Yeah, but I have no idea, honestly. Yeah, that's this sound, but I think it's cool. It's at least the theme is fitting. Alright, this is the same ambience shot I showed you earlier over here. And well, other than that, we have the drums going on. I'll turn them on and you can listen to them. Yeah, that's about it. Basically, really simple. I have this loop, but I didn't want to use the kick of this loop, at least not the sub part. That's why I left. I heavily, let me check. I heavily like took out some of the lows to get rid of the kick, and some of the highs to make it less ringing in the ear. And I put on a glue to get the dynamic range down a bit. That's all. I didn't even use any makeup, as you can see. And that's this sound. Well, I used a different kick. This one. It's a really basic kick, actually. It's over here. Yeah, what I did, since we still have a click of the loop, I turned down some of the highs. It usually sounds like this, but I only wanted the lows of it. And I didn't like this resonance here, in here. It kind of bothered me, that's why I removed it. And together this now sounds quite well. Yeah, really nothing special about it. Then we have this crank loop. I think it's actually from the Caslow sample pack. I'm really loving this one. It sounds like this. Really just going left, right, left, right. I put it off. I put it like into the offbeat. I think it is. To like get in more interesting and more kind of sped up rhythm. Yeah, that like just adds to the texture. Let me check if I processed it. I did, I think. Yeah, I used an EQ just to get rid of this frequency here. I think it was a little bit of a resonance, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, then we have this hi-hat loop. I processed it as well. I think I just took out some of the air. Yeah, I did. You can really hear the difference in the air. And that's just something I recently discovered with the air in general. In a lot of sounds you have this air. And if it adds up, it will really make your track muddy. So try taking the air out of your sounds. At least that's what helped me. That's what a really big problem of my mixes was in general. So that's what I did. Okay, and we have this kind of perks on top, just for some more Earcandy. they do sound really strange, but it just adds up, it works. I just took out some of the lows and I decreased the dynamic range a lot again in this sound. I didn't want it to be like with some high peaks, so I just made it more fitting to the dynamic ranges of the other sounds. And I think that's already all about these sounds. I have this like this section here for some more Earcandy. It sounds like this. It's just, it comes really unexpected, and I just experimented around and this came out, and yeah, it's just there for Earcandy purpose. It's made out of like, there's a sidechain going on at this part, so you have like the duct sound, and we have this sound. I'm using it a little bit later, so I won't go into detail now. We have this channel pitch to like pitch it down while it plays. It's really quick, so it's not really something you notice, but it differs the sound for real. So, and we have this piano sound. Where is it? It's over here. Pretty sure that oh, it actually is. This is the same this is the same FX chain that I used for the trumpet. Here, this is the same. I just turned off some of the effects, like the destructor, and like Lost Glue and this the paramedic cues, and it just adds this really nice Earcandy. It comes really oh my god, it like, I don't know, it really adds something, especially because you don't expect a piano there. It's not this, it's a piano actually. There it is. Yeah, it's just a normal noir. Oops. Yeah, it's just a normal noir. Okay. Yeah. Moving on to, I think, the last stuff. Yeah, that's about it here. Alright, this stuff is like the same I showed you earlier. Like this. It's just the same string lead and the same trumpet lead, so we don't check this out again. What we will check out is this. We have this Earcandy. It's actually the same as this one, but I doubled it. I used this one. I used this one to like start the LFO, like as the transit, you can already hear it, and this one fades in, and I cut it some stuff here just to keep it going for this part. Yeah, that's about it. It's the same chain as before, and this will go into this part. Let's listen to it. That's the brass part at the end of the track so far. Well, it's just a brass sample actually, like a really normal one. Let me check. Alright, yeah, let me turn off the FX. Without the FX, it sounds like this. You can hear it's basically the same foundation of the sound, but the effects are really like spicing this one up. It's just a normal EQ to get rid of the lows and like low mids. Sounds like this. Nothing special. And we have another distortion pad Rohr by Xenofish, and this is again what spices this one really up. I used the thermal distortion plugin before, but I turned it off. It just gave it a way different vibe. With it sounds like this. Yeah, I don't know, it sounds really strange but really cool, but I didn't want to use this for this part. And I have a Fruity Balance just to cut the sound off at these parts, so they don't like overlap. And that's already the sound. Together with the instruments, it sounds like this. It's really fitting in the mix, in my opinion. Well, especially because on like the first hit, I turned off the mid bass. So this one has like the space to establish it itself in this short section. And what I also did to make this sound more interesting is like this stutter step, kind of. I think I turned my grid to 1/6 of a step. Yeah, I did. And then I just cutted this part really shortly, and then you just get this sound. It just sounds more buggy and glitchy, and it makes it more unique again. My overall like goal in this track was just to make stuff sound unique and cool in general. I think, yeah, other than that there's nothing special, just this another channel pitch. It's like going some semitones up to make this part more interesting. I also turned off or like removed all the other instruments and even the drums for this section to just give this brace bass kind of solo part. And I made this brace I made unique, and I added some reverb to give it some tail. Yeah, I think that's actually about it. That's the whole track. Oh, I have this. What is this? I don't even know what this is. I think I removed some frequencies of an instrument, but I'm actually not quite sure of which. I guess I'll figure it out. Can't be that important. Just to I probably took out some lows of one of the instruments here, just to make the brace fit better in the mix. Alright, I think that's actually about it. Sorry for the long video. This just like this kind of stuff just like needs a lot of time to explain. I hope this somehow might have helped you. I'd really appreciate a comment, especially like if you're interested into the Fruity Loops project, let me know. I might release it then for free, obviously. And other than that, I hope this helped you. Thank you for watching.